Hi, Damien and Marcus from 100 Not Out here. MP,
Yes, Damo?
we all know the importance of having a diary, but who wants a boring old day planner?
Not me.
Enter the Journey of Me,
Ta-da!
the incredible 8-month wellness journal designed especially for wellness peeps like you.
Yes, Damo, this beautiful 8-month wellness guide is filled with questions, planners, exercises, reflective notes, and more. Endorsed by the Up for a Chat girls and loved the world over, the Journey of Me is a must-have if you're ready to live your best life for life.
To purchase your very own Journey of Me and receive a free set of inspirational postcards, simply enter the code COUCH at www.wellineu.com. That's www.wellineux.com.
TheWellnessCouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, featuring your hosts Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
I'm Julie Tenner, and today's podcast is sponsored by Sacred Living Design, who are providing the women at our retreat something extra special in the form of handmade, delightful body natural perfumes through essential oils. So Sacred Living Design with Helen, I spoke to her a while, actually last week, and she makes the most amazing blends based on their based on the healing properties of the actual essential oils, but not so much the physical properties as opposed to the metaphysical, so the emotional and spiritual healing of each of those scents that also have a physical representation in the body. And so she makes natural roll-on perfumes and sprays that you can aromatize in a moment and to inhale a deep breath, and soy candles, and I'm sure there are more, but they're the ones that I'm particularly delighted by.
Yes.
And so we really wanted to open up today what ritual is.
Because all of these kinds of things, like what Sacred Living Design offers, is really around creating that own personal ritual for yourself. And sometimes we can feel a little bit, and perhaps I'm guilty of that, feeling a little bit indulgent by these things, but in fact what they provide is so much more than perhaps that physical ritual of applying them or smelling them, but rather that at an energetic level what they can evoke within us.
I love that word, evoke. So right, I feel like that's the perfect word for ritual.
Yeah.
I feel like we have ritual in a different context these days.
Today,
I feel like
yes.
when we say ritual, you're either thinking about pagan witchy stuff.
Yes.
Or, I don't know, you're thinking about something, like a traditional tribal kind of version of ritual.
Yeah, almost like an initiation kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to, we do ritual naturally within our Western culture nearly every day. So we have ritual around how we wake up in the morning, how we have our coffee or our breakfast, how we say goodbye to our family. We have ritual around how we open up our computers and our workstations. We have ritual around birthdays. We celebrate and have ritual around the birth of a person and a child.
Yes.
We have ritual around celebrating a couple when they're united in engagement or marriage. We have ritual around so many aspects in our lives, yet we're mostly unconscious about and a ritual is just a word for a deeper meaning.
Yeah.
A recognition.
And yet, as you're going on to say, we often perhaps don't question the meaning behind those things.
Yes,
And
exactly.
so sometimes there's an emptiness to them because we haven't grounded ourselves in the power within them.
Yes, and when we're present in a moment, which is what awareness of a ritual is, it provides an ever deeper, richer central experience because it really allows us to stand still for a moment longer, just to sit in it.
And be grateful.
Be grateful and feel it. Because how different is it to wake up in the morning on your child's birthday and have a moment to recognize the gift of that birth, the gift of that soul coming into this world, and that you're celebrating the day this soul entered your world, as opposed to just moving straight forward with birthday cake, candles and presents.
Yes.
Which we do anyway.
Yeah, we
that's
do.
the ritual.
Yes.
But having the moment about why they're there is the intent behind the ritual. And
It's almost, the ritual creates the permission to pause.
yes.
And reflect.
And feel.
And I guess really connect with what that moment represents for you.
Yes.
The significance of that event represents for you.
It's an honouring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And so we love ritual. We will be indulging in a bit of ritual within our retreat. So we'll have ritual when we enter a meditation, and we'll have a ritual when we move from one aspect that we're discussing into another. And, you know, ritual is just so rich.
Yes.
That there's so much you can do with it.
Yes.
And why we really wanted to bring this to awareness when we're talking about essential oils is because the ability to connect the sensual touch with the sensual smell and potentially even the sight is such a powerful moment to be able to induce self-love and presence that it's extraordinary. I've taken to a ritual of choosing an essential oil blend that just, I don't know, is like, for me, earthy and musky and just feels sexy just in its scent. And I've taken to putting that on my hand and taking an intuition walk with my hands. So wherever my body feels like it's yearning to be touched with that oil is where I rub it into. So often that's my sacrum, and often that's just an awakening, just a present moment of rubbing that in, inhaling that smell. And sometimes I might set an intent, or sometimes I might, if I'm struggling, I don't know. It's rare that it happens for me, but if there's areas of my body that I'm struggling with in their appearance or that I'm having issues with, I will rub that area and have a bit of a moment of going, oh, you feel good. Hi.
Yeah,
you know?
You're kind of connecting with that area and so going deeper into what it's trying to communicate to you.
Hello, roundness of my belly that has offered so much and represents my womanliness. Hello, sacrum, where all of my, you know, sexual energy and pelvic organs are. You know, hello, breasts that I spent so many years hating. You know, just there's such a ritual around self-love through touch. Our hands are incredibly healing. And the scent that you can use, if you can use an essential oil that you just love, there's something about that smell that just ignites something within you. That energy is what's going into that area of your body and that aspect of your psyche. And that is healing. There are layers of beliefs and trauma and pain that you can relieve simply by spending a moment on sensation. You don't even have to go to self-love and all of that stuff.
It's just being awareness of the sensation.
Sensation and sensuality with using something that feels decadent and delicious to you, that you just love doing. That's bringing self-love in a non-scary way. So,
and and it might even be, even if that's too big a leap, it could even be some of the things that you do every day, like, you know, massaging moisturizer.
Yes.
Or, you know,
the way you rub it into your face.
Yeah, or shaving your legs, or, you know, just bringing that awareness to the touch of your legs or to the touch of your face and looking at it in a different way, feeling it, actually feeling it as opposed to sort of absent-mindedly slapping it on like so often we do.
Yes. Absolutely.
Because those simple moments, every little moment in our life offers us an opportunity to see it differently.
Yeah.
And to experience it sensually.
Yes. And that's why I love actually even having, like, these roll-on perfumes. I think are a fantastic thing because you can chuck them in your bag. So you need a little loving up at different parts in your day. Guess what? You've got the vehicle to get you there.
Yeah.
Rub it on your hands and rub it wherever your body is yearning to be touched. That's the perfect place to do it. You don't even have to do it in public. You could nick off to the loo and do it in private. Whatever it is that gives you that moment of gratitude is actually the path to self-love.
And and ritual is beyond nourishing of the physical. You know, we choose ritual to nourish all of our senses and all of ourselves. You know, and so often we create ritual to connect ourselves as a family. I know you do a lot of that kind of thing, you know, where you really focus on celebration or ritual around, you know, even, for example, Halloween is something that you tend to create a ritual around.
Yeah.
And there's an enormous depth to that perhaps people might label as commercial or whatever it is, but there's a massive depth that creating a ritual around that kind of thing can nourish.
Of course.
You know?
And we've done that for eons, right? That's where we've come from, is a culture that has feasts to celebrate certain things and harvest, and we have a dance when we, you know, I don't know, whatever it is. That's all ritual, and it provides so much more than you know, it's just an honouring for what has passed, what you've put into it.
Yeah, the effort or
and a reaping of the pleasure that comes from that. That's what a ritual is. It's a reaping of pleasure. And not even reaping is the wrong word. A receiving of the pleasure that you've created with intention. And
a marking of an achievement or, you know, of an effort.
Yeah.
You know, particularly if you look back into our ancestry, you know, it would have been like, you know, the harvest. So, you know, the season of, you know, toil and kind of hard work, and now here we get to receive the bounty of all of our efforts.
That's exactly right.
Which is beautiful. And, you know, that hasn't changed. Like, you know, we haven't lost that. It's just a different form today. And it perhaps might take a more material or more commercialised form because that's the society in which we live. But there's always opportunity for us to access the joy within that and the meaning within that, because it's always there.
That's right. So Christmas is, you know, commercial and consumerist and all of these things. But okay, where's the ritual?
Yeah.
And therefore, where's the worship and the spiritual behind all of that? Because if you look at the beyond the material, there's meaning and intent and love, and that's ritual. And you can open up spirituality and ritual through ritual in a very, you know, mainstream commercial kind of way.
Yeah.
They don't have to be separate.
No.
They can be totally intertwined. It's the intention that you bring with it.
And it's also looking at the belief systems that you have around it. You know, if you bring, and I'm thinking about myself here often, you know, because we're always talking about ourselves when we talk about things like this. You know, that you might sort of judge some things as being too commercial, or, you know, judge it as too crazy, too much of a crazy time, people getting caught up in the unimportant things. But that also offers you an opportunity to reflect on, okay, well, where's that come from for me? Like, why am I feeling an emotional charge on that kind of thing? Because that's come from somewhere, because not everyone has that view.
No.
Right? And so it's also an offering in which to unpack what that ritual means and perhaps choose a different way to be with that ritual that is enriching as opposed to
and
depleting.
Yes.
You know?
Ooh, I like that. Lighting a candle can be a ritual too.
Yes.
So just the simple process of honouring your sensuality and your pleasure through vision of a candle, or the energy that lighting a candle has in a room, that's a ritual. Taking a moment to strike that match or whatever it is and watching that flame hit that candle, that is a ritual. It calls you into a moment. And you can amplify that effect by setting an intent. I light this candle to bring forth, to light up, to whatever, insert what the thing is that you're doing. Or by looking at that flame and spending a second, are there any messages that this flame has for me? You know, these are all rituals. And, you know, I really want to say as well, ritual is beyond the celebration. It's also about the, the honouring of the deep and the dark as well. So we have, you know, I feel like, I read that, you know, Women Who Run with the Wolves, which I've spoken to before, she has this fantastic statement that she says on there, she often does in her classes with a group of women, where she gets all of these women to bring in a selection of photos of the women that have been the greatest impact on that woman's life. And this woman then speaks to the group about each of these women and talks about their greatest achievements, their greatest soul purpose, and their deepest scars. Where are the crosses and the X's on that roadmap to who they are now? And what is the honouring around those life transitions? That's ritual. Ritual around, you know, we talked in our miscarriage podcast, what's the ritual around honouring that loss, that experience, that soul scarring? What is the ritual that we just spend a moment extra to acknowledge what's happened, what's passed, what that soul has travelled? That is ritual as well. It's not always in the light, but it's about seeing there's as much value in celebrating
and sometimes
those crosses
yeah,
as there are in celebrating the magic.
And in some ways, you know, I would argue maybe even that there's more value in giving yourself permission to create ritual around some of those dark places, because that's often where you can sit and pause and ask yourself and ask that experience what it has to offer you. You know, what it has for you to grow, where are the blessings in this for me to really ultimately help you access your next level of growth and opportunity.
Totally. And before we even get to the blessings, right, we spoke about that in the miscarriage one too, is the ritual around just letting those emotions come out. So what is the honouring of stillness enough for you to connect to those feelings, to allow them to pour out of your soul so that you can actually get to the blessing? Because unless you've had that outpouring of that human experience, you're never going to get to the soul lesson. You kind of have to move through the physical experience to get to the deeper spirituality of it. And you do that through ritual.
Yes.
You do that through a moment of presence, through a prayer, an affirmation, an intent, a mantra, a lighting of a candle, a running of a bath, a sitting in the shower, a curling under the covers. They're all rituals. And each person's ritual will be different depending on what their needs are for that particular moment. So we just want to open up what is, you know, where is the ritual in your life? Where can you have more presence and more awareness of a moment? Because the minute you're more aware of a moment is kind of where you're going to get those soul messages the greatest.
Yeah. You're able to access the depth of that moment and what that moment really means, and when you can give it presence.
Yes. And then, as you and I, Bridget, have often said, comes the outpouring of gratitude that can bring you to the point of tears. But you can only get to the point of gratitude if you've come to the point of awareness to start off with.
Yes.
You can't be grateful for something you're not aware of.
No. Well, you know, it's often difficult to be grateful when you're on autopilot.
Yeah.
You know, when you're going through the motions, or when you're having resentment about something that you have to do every day. But in fact, that thing you have to do every day can be so much more than, you know, just the running of the bath. Or,
exactly right.
You know, just having to shave my legs, or whatever it is. Because it's an opportunity to connect in with yourself.
Yeah.
And if it's, you know, if it's a running of a bath, it's an opportunity to connect in with your child.
Yes.
You know, and what their day's meant to them.
Yes.
Bringing that awareness to it.
Yes. Adding something for yourself that represents, I'm willing to honour my body, or I'm willing to open up what self-love is. So it might be putting a handful of rose petals in that bath you're already going to have. Rubbing your body with a salt scrub to cleanse your aura in the shower.
You know, or opening that you know, jar of bath salts that you've been putting off, you know, that's in the corner of your cupboard that you think, oh, I must do that one day. Go and open it.
Yes.
You know.
And enjoy the smell and enjoy the feeling. Like, this is ritual. And ritual opens up our sensuality, it opens up our feminine, and it opens up the space for self-love. We can't get to the point of self-love by running in the masculine and being busy.
No.
It's just, you can't just go on that and then go, I love my thighs. Yeah. It's just, you know, there's all these steps in between. Yeah. And it's baby steps.
Yeah, it really is.
It really is. To do a great big leap is rarely going to pay off. It's the hard yards. It's the little bit of this and a little bit of that that produces a little bit more awakening and a little bit more love that gets you to the big places. And you learn so much about yourself and your journey and the people around you through the small steps. If you made those big leaps, what would you be missing in between? Because it's the stuff in between those big leaps that, I don't know, have just fueled my soul the most. They're the things I'm almost the most grateful for, is all those little revelations on the path to the big one.
Because you needed those little ones to help you fully appreciate and recognise the big one.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be at the big one if you didn't have those little parts of that.
And the little parts allow you to provide gratitude and empathy and compassion for those that are still journeying their little steps. Or for recognising where you were in someone else. So in last week's podcast, we were talking about health, and you'd said, I bet there was stuff that you held back on me. And I was like, yeah, but not out of, I didn't agree with you, out of, gee, I get that, I've been there. And that's okay. I see the gifts
and I think what I love about that, and I think that it's wise for all of us on whatever part of our journey we're on, is to absolutely recognise that we are all at different stages of and, ultimately we are all, even whether we recognise it or not, living the life that's most important for us, because we are the consciously or subconsciously navigating that, and so there'll be gifts in that for us, even if we're not recognising that. And so
let's step that back a little, because I feel like that was a leap for some people. So when you say we're consciously or unconsciously living our values, can you expand that a little?
Yeah, so I suppose, people often, say, oh, they might resent where they're at, they might resent the job that they've got, or they'll resent a situation in which they find themselves in. But the reality is we wouldn't do something if we weren't deriving benefits from it in some way. We just may not have recognised what those benefits are consciously. So we are, and that's what it means to say that we are always on purpose, because we are always creating the life in which is most aligned with our end in mind, even if we don't know what that end in mind is, if that makes sense. So there are gifts in everything for us, and the more we can pause to see how everything that we have been through has in some way served us in terms of what's been important to us in that moment. Because often what we do, we tend to judge ourselves for not achieving a certain thing that we think we should have done, or not have been the daughter that we should have been, or the friend that we should have been in that situation. And so we'll hold on to these shame and guilts around that, which then lowers our sense of self-worth. So we'll beat ourselves up, we'll feel flat, we'll get a headache.
And enters a belief system that potentially changes the way that we function.
Yeah, it does, and because your body's always giving you feedback. Like yesterday I had this day of having a headache all day, and so I was sitting with it like, what's this trying to tell me? And it paralleled the fact that I was feeling really flat, feeling like I hadn't achieved anything, feeling like I was really kind of confused, and it was just a feedback for me to kind of get back into balance. And in fact, everyone around me was trying to show me that too, to just get present, be grateful for what you've done so far, and just stop beating yourself up. And the beauty is everyone's always trying to guide you to that, everyone around you.
And the path to stop beating yourself up is to see the gifts.
To see that to see that no matter what I've done or not done, I am worthy of love. No matter what I've done or not done, doesn't matter. You're still worthy. And that is a really difficult, for most of us, sentence to fully comprehend and sit with, because we judge ourselves all the time, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. And, the perfection in that is that the judging is what drives us, because if we were enraptured by who we were and fully loved ourselves, in the sense that we had done everything that we always wanted to do and we could do no more and we are amazing, then we would no longer strive for anything, because we would feel like we were done. And that's not what a human experience means. A human experience is to uncover and peel back more and more layers of ourselves to grow. And that's the beauty of it. Because
the soul at a soul level can't do that, because it's all universal love and perfection.
Yes.
Yeah. We need the human form to almost shrink our ability to see outside
the soul knows that nothing is missing. It's the senses that perceive that something's missing.
Yeah.
And so you can either grow that wisdom through years, and you'll look back, like whatever thing you think is terrible, in 5 months, 5 years, or 50 years, you'll look back and see how it served you. But true mastery of your life is to, in a situation that you think is terrible, what are the gifts in it? How can you balance out your perception to see that there are equal benefits and drawbacks to whatever is happening, but that you are filtering out the other side according to to your values. You're filtering out the side that you don't want to see because it doesn't fit your paradigm of the way things should be. You know what I mean?
Oh, I really get it. I actually love how you step that out. So moving beyond that, when we talk about in terms of universal laws, that my current reality is only the product of my previous thought pattern.
Yeah,
can you expand that a little?
So you live twice. So you live your life once in your mind, and you live your life the next in reality. So we're always manifesting. So what is in a physical form has first come from our mind and what we're thinking. And so that's what we say when we say
that's manifestation, right?
It is.
I think it, and I do affirmations and whatever.
But even if you're not consciously creating affirmations, you're still manifesting.
Even on a fear level. So even if you're thinking about fearful things in a way, that's manifesting.
And we touched on that, in the miscarriage podcast, where I said, and I even wrote this in that letter which I read out at the beginning of the podcast, that my biggest fear of a miscarriage happened. I manifested it. Now that might be challenging for people to hear. And I couldn't have heard myself say that a few years ago. But that was consuming me. That fear was consuming me. And I almost needed to experience that very thing that I was so afraid of to see that I would be okay. To see that there were gifts in that for me. And there were gifts in that for me that I would never change. And that I wouldn't take that back.
But potentially the difference between unconsciously living a reality and consciously living a reality is that as opposed to letting those run and the universe providing that, we have the opportunity in that moment to balance our polarization.
Yes.
So whichever way we're seeing something that's so fantastic we can't possibly see the downside, or all we're living in is fear and everything that could possibly go wrong, is taking that moment to really honestly feel both sides of that.
Yes.
So you're almost sitting in emotional neutral.
Yeah, because the reality is elation or fantastical thinking or kind of excitement, you know, where you've got that fever pitch feeling in your body that's all consuming, is unsustainable. You cannot sustain that level, and then if you don't equilibrate yourself, you will attract something outside of you to equilibrate it. And that won't always be, you know, negative or bad, but it might be that, you know, you've had such an amazing night out and the next day you're super flat, or you've had such an incredible holiday, nothing could meet it, so then you resent your job for the next 3 months. You either balance yourself to see the drawbacks in something that you think is so amazing, or you will create something else to help you do that. And similarly, if you're super, super depressed and the world hates you and, you know, like you hate the world and there's nothing good to come of life, you know, it's wiser to start to see the benefits in your situation, to help equilibrate your mind. Because your mind and your body, or your body's responding to your mind, and the outer world is responding to your inner world, your inner mind. And so we can either manifest what some people might term tragedy or trauma or negative things, or we can choose consciously to manifest things that are most aligned with what's inspiring to us. And that's where affirmation comes in. You know, that's when choosing balanced affirmations that recognize that in whatever we do, there'll be both support and challenge, but that we will embrace both of those things on the path to what's most inspiring to us. Because you can't get rid of one or the other. They're always there. You know,
the yin and the yang.
It is. I mean, even, you know, my choice to spend time growing businesses means I'm taking time away from my child, you know, and that's a conscious choice that I've had to make and something that I've had to journey. But it's through recognizing that for me, my most inspired life right now is to do that. And it's to recognize that there are gifts for him in that. And there are gifts for me in that. But there's also drawbacks.
I love this because I was really challenged by this when you first... We've totally got off the track of ritual, but anyway, I was totally inspired by this when you first said it, because so much about me being a stay-home mum was based on the I'm going to say puritanical belief system that they were best at home with me.
Yes.
That if they were not at home with a primary caregiver, a mother, that there would be emotional damage being caused by that separation, by being looked after by strangers, by being left on their own.
Yes.
Part of my motivation for being a stay-at-home mum.
Yeah.
And then you really brought to life for me was, but what are the gifts in your child being left at a childcare setting?
Yeah.
Even if my worst vision happened and my child's melted down in tears and nobody's there to help them and my worst nightmare played out, what are the gifts in that? And I really dug deep and I was like, my goodness, I get that there's no right or wrong, because it's through adversity and struggle that some of the greatest wisdom we will ever receive happens.
Yes, if you're looking throughout history, some of the people, the greatest thinkers, people who've changed the world the most, had the most adversity in their childhood.
Yeah,
which is hard to swallow for mothers who really value raising their children.
Totally, like that's me. That's me, right? But at the same time, it's alleviated the guilt that I was harbouring around. Needing to be at home at the point of self-sacrificing what felt like my soul. You know, I was really so hanging on to that belief system that my kids were best at home with me, that despite the fact that I was not as fulfilled and happy as I wanted to be, that was the right thing to do. Whereas now I see the balance between what are the gifts of them having multiple carers that they're close to, and what are the gifts in them having time away from mum, and what are the gifts in needing to emotionally get on with things on their own versus same, like what are the gifts in all those things in the reverse, but I already knew all of those. It was me looking at the other side that I didn't know.
And it's also, I mean, a deeper level of that is it's you, like your children are you reflecting to you. So there's wounds that you have, you know, that this experience is opening up for you. So the sooner you can go back and see how whatever void that you're trying to fill for yourself through them, see how it was perfect for you.
It's living the vicarious, isn't it?
It is.
I
because
totally love that.
You know, the reality is so many parents say they love their children, but the love is there's a not a depth to that love, because often the love is just through soothing. So they're trying to soothe themselves through their children. They're trying to heal their own wounds through not allowing their children to experience the depth of pain you may be, and this is the human condition. This is if we are parenting from a place of unawareness, we will perpetuate our same childhood experience, because we will live it once again, and we won't know why they're pushing our buttons, but they're pushing our buttons. But children are more in tune than we can ever dream to be. They know so much, and it's incredibly humbling to get a glimpse of that. When you see even the other day I was at swimming with my son, and I had an epiphany, and I had these tears when I was in the pool with him, because he was clutching onto me, and he wouldn't go underwater, and he would not let go of me. At the same time as I was realizing that he was replaying for me the experience that I had when I was 3, being terrified of jumping into the water. And he was, by clutching onto me, was trying to get me to let go. He was trying to help me to heal that. Because we might think that we've lived that experience and we've moved on, but as long as that memory comes up for us,
as long as there's an emotional trigger, there doesn't even have to be a clear memory.
Because, memories and imagination are almost illusions for us, because they are not showing us the truth of love that was in that moment that we didn't see.
And by love, you're meaning the balancing of those two.
Because love is
the support and the challenge.
Love is a synthesis, and synchronicity, because there's a synchronicity in every moment. In every moment, for everything that we perceive as a positive, there's a synchronous negative that we don't see. And for everything that we see as negative, there's a synchronous positive that we don't see. Love is a synthesis and synchronicity of both of those things. So, I think often as parents, if we have wounds from our own childhood, we will parent from a place of trying to give our kids so much support, because we're trying to compensate for our perception of a lack of support growing up. But in fact...
And there's gifts in that.
Yeah, but the reality is that children are never without one or the other. So if we go too much in support for our children, then they may attract the challenge outside the family. So they might be bullied at school, right? Because everybody needs both sides to grow. So, if you have children, what's really great to do is to start to help your children to choose their own challenges. So for things that they're trying to resist, how can you help them to choose their own inspired challenges to grow? Whether if they're 2.5, really trying hard to take that next step on the play equipment that they're trying to master, to actually help them govern themselves and choose their challenges, then have the universe bring those challenges in for them to grow. Because ultimately that's what we're all here for, here to grow. And it's beautiful, and both the negative and the positive that we might term as are part of that growth. But as humans, we are support-seeking organisms. We're always looking for support. We choose to surround ourselves with people who support our values to help us entrench our belief that our values are the way that the world should be. And we've both done this. It's funny because, you do this in parenting. You choose circles of people who reflect your values back to you so that you can continue to live in your utopian state, of how you think the world is. And and this is my journey, certainly have people who parent polar opposite to you, and it really challenges and pushes your buttons, but they are getting you to help come back into balance. So they are actually people to thank. People who challenge you the most are often the people who need your greatest thanks, because they're the ones who are helping you to love the parts of yourself you haven't loved. We totally got off the tangent of rituals.
We totally did. But in a way, that's a ritual. What if every moment that you're met with an emotional trigger or charge, there's a ritual around, what is this for me? Where is this coming from? And what are the gifts out of the stuff I'm not happy with in this moment? How does it serve me? Yeah,
and how do I see this perceived obstacle that I see in the way of where I want to go? How is it on the way? How is it serving me? Because sometimes those biggest obstacles can be our biggest way forward. We just don't know it yet.
Yes.
And you won't always find it. It could be, like pulling teeth, trying to get that out of something that's seemingly so disastrous. And it's not to beat yourself up either if you can't get there, because most of us can't get there in a moment like that that's full of emotion.
Yeah, totally.
But I think it's just sometimes creating a ritual around stillness.
And ritual is awareness.
Yeah.
If you're even aware that there could be something greater, you will get there. But sometimes you've got to peel back the baby step layers before you get to the big message. It's not this bad thing, I'll ask myself these questions and the epiphany will happen.
No.
Often it's, you've got to there's a shaping and a polishing of that diamond to get to who it is that you need to be, and that's going through the trudging through the mud stuff.
Yeah. And knowing that you don't reach some form of enlightenment where you can handle everything that comes to you, because you reach one level and the next level comes, because that's what it means to grow. You overcome one challenge and the next one instantaneously triggers, because that's what it means to have a soul journey.
That's exactly right.
And that's the beauty of our human experience and, everything that life offers us.
Yes. And if you're struggling and if you're having an emotionally dark day, I would really invite you to choose an essential oil that you absolutely adore, or a blend, or a natural perfume from Sacred Living Designs.
Yeah.
You can just literally spend a moment rubbing onto your skin, onto a part of your body, or even just inhaling on your hands. And just having a moment just to enjoy it. You don't even need another purpose. Just a ritual to enjoy something that this human form gives you. And scent is extraordinary.
Scent is powerful, because scent takes us to places. It instantly evokes a certain memory for us, or it instantly evokes a certain feeling that we might have felt in our body, years and years ago. And that's beautiful too, because it's reminding us of part of our journey and who we've grown to, who we've become.
That's exactly right. So if you would like to connect with us, it's on Facebook, Nourishing the Mother. We have our retreat coming up on the 8th of November, so we're nearly out of time for booking. So if you are really tempted to awaken and open a little bit more of your journey, having some guidance on peeling back those layers, if you even have an inkling, please dive in, because it is such a gift for you to really give yourself, because that ripples out into your family and into your relationships, and it will legitimately, we've both had those experiences where it legitimately transforms the feeling, the emotion, the love, the joy that you experience in your day-to-day life, just by shifting yourself. And sometimes you just need a little nudge and some tools to get there.
Yeah, totally.
So if you want to connect with Bridget, that's on suburbansandcastles.com.
Yes, and the next film night is Project Wild Thing, which is all about reconnecting kids with nature and really looking at the role technology plays in our lives today, from a place of how can we bring some intention and balance to technology use and not see it as the demon that sometimes we can be kind of conditioned to see it as.
So that's even bringing back into balance that
it is, it really is,
yeah.
And that's really what the objective of that is absolutely about, especially going into summer holidays and giving parents, some tools to monitor technology use, and give their kids some tools to have how to choose things that are kind of rewarding for them and kind of interesting, and also choose some intentional nature time, like as a family, really cultivate some rituals around nature, which would be beautiful for the summer holidays.
Absolutely.
And if you want to connect with Julie.
Yeah, so at the moment, my Pleasure Nutritionist website and blog is coming. So at the moment, it's Facebook and Instagram on The Pleasure Nutritionist. And if you would like to connect with Sacred Living Design, you will also find them on Facebook and on Instagram. And for the women coming to our retreat, they'll get a gorgeous sensual sampling of those delights.
Gorgeous. So we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on a mothering journey.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/The Wellness Couch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.